Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Ashlyn, the Eclectic Book Witch, and today I am doing part 2 of my Goodreads Then versus Now series, where I discuss some of the books that I read years ago, and I go through my reviews on Goodreads and decide whether or not I would actually give these books the same ratings now versus what I did then. And it's been kind of fun to go back and look through what books I did read. This time I chose books that I read in 2016, and it was just kind of fun to see what I did write for reviews for what I read and what books I read, and so let's just dive right in. So the first one I'm going to talk about is called Forever Charmed, and it's the first in a series. It's called the Halloween Laveau series. So this one I gave 4 stars to, and in this one you're following the main character. Her name is Halloween Laveau. So as you can tell by the cover, it's got the witchy vibes, especially with the main character's name. Halloween considers herself the ultimate witch cliche. She ends up inheriting a house from her great aunt. So Halloween ends up deciding that she's going to take the house that she inherited from her great aunt and turn it into a bed and breakfast. So while she's working on the house, she ends up discovering an old book up in the attic. And it's written in an unfamiliar language that she doesn't know, but it still intrigues her anyway, so she's poking through it and everything. But what she does not know is that this book is actually cursed. She also discovers that there is a connection between the book and these new powers that she has as a necromancer. So she's learning these new skills with her power of necromancy, but as she's learning this, she also discovers that even though she can reanimate the dead, they don't always come back nice, I guess is the way to put it. Since she's opened up the house as a bed and breakfast, different people have been coming to stay, one of which is a rival witch, another is a vampire, and one of them wants to take the book from her, and then another one wants to destroy the book and to just end everything that's going on once and for all for stuff that happens inside the bed and breakfast. But Halloween doesn't know who to trust, and I do remember reading this one, and I remember it being an entertaining, fun read. There was kind of a, I think there was kind of a love triangle going on between 2 of the guys that came to stay. I remember that a little bit, and that kind of influenced the story too. But all in all, it was, I remember being an entertaining, fun, just short and sweet read. I never got around to reading more of the series. I did look into it, and there are quite a few more after the first one. Would I give it 4 stars today? I'd have to reread it to know for sure, but I have a feeling if I didn't give it 4 stars again, I would probably give it around 3 stars. The second book that I read, I actually still have the physical copy of, is Time of Death by Susan Wittig Albert. My copy is a little damaged, probably from, I don't know, pets and stuff. But so this is actually the first book of a series. It's the China Bales series, and this definitely became one of my all-time favorite series. This is the only copy I have. Eventually I would like to start collecting copies to own and get a better one that's in better condition than this one. But so this series, China is an ex-lawyer, and she's moved to this small town in Texas called Pecan Springs, and decides to open up an herbal shop. So you get all of the books in the series have some sort of play on some sort of herb, so Time of Death. And in this one, a close friend of hers has died of an apparent suicide. but there's something that China finds suspicious, and so she starts to kind of investigate herself into the matter, and she's convinced that there is someone living in town that actually murdered her friend. With that being said, this was actually not, even though it's the first book in the series, I didn't know it was a series at first when I came across the series. The first book I actually read was the second book in the series, which is A Witch's Bane. And as you can see by this cover, that's what automatically drew me to it. This one is set around Halloween time, and there's like a whole bunch of celebrations going on, but one of the celebrations ends up with someone being murdered, and China is very surprised when a minister actually accuses her friend Ruby, she has a shop right next to China's herbal shop, and Ruby is an expert of tarot, astrology, all those sorts of things. So this minister accuses Ruby of murdering the person, and China again is investigating, trying to figure out what happened and who the real killer is, because it's not Ruby. But this is a really fun series that I enjoyed. I know I think I read like the first maybe 5 or 6 books in the series. I was getting them at the library back when I was reading the series. So this is one that I highly recommend. Both this and Witch's Bane, I know I gave 4 stars to. Now I would probably give them 5 stars, I'm assuming, because I love the series a lot, and I do plan on getting back into reading the series and also collecting them at some point. And then another book that I read in 2016. This I thought was really funny because I came across it I was scrolling through the books I read on Goodreads, and I came across this one, and I looked and I was like, this author sounds awfully familiar. So I double checked an ebook that I am actually currently reading for a book club this month, and sure enough, it's by the same author. I read back in 2016 Obsidian by Jennifer L. Armentrout, and I do remember reading this one, and I thought it was a fun read. It was entertaining, and it was kind of one of my first, I want to say it was one of my first reads ever for kind of like if I'm remembering everything correctly, it was kind of like a mix of sci-fi, fantasy-ish, probably more sci-fi than fantasy, with some romance thrown in there. And so the main character, I can't remember her name and I couldn't find it on Goodreads, but the main character, she moves to West Virginia. It's kind of like her family starting over. And she ends up meeting their neighbors, one of which is this guy named Damon. And she thinks he's really hot. And he has a sister, and eventually she discovers that Damon and his sister are actually aliens. And something happens where Damon ends up marking the main character. I can't remember exactly what or why or how that came about. And there are other aliens, enemy aliens. There are other enemy aliens that are actually after Damon and his sister to try and steal their abilities. So that one I would definitely give a reread, and that one I also gave 4 stars to. So that was actually a pretty good reading year for me. There's quite a few more books that I read that year, but there's way too many for me to list on here. So would I give this one 4 stars again? I think I probably would. And so funny enough, the book that I'm reading now by Jennifer L. Armentrout is From Blood and Ash. I'm only through the first couple of chapters so far, but I'm really enjoying it. And when I saw Obsidian on my Goodreads list, it kind of brought back memories of, okay, I kind of recognize the writing style now. That's why I know I'm really enjoying the book so far. So those are the books that I wanted to share with you today, and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading and stay spooky, lovelies.